Welcome to Phails. My name is Phil Jones, and today my guest is Dan Workman. He's a producer and an engineer, music producer and engineer, and a psychotherapist specializing in creative-informed psychotherapy. Wave to everybody, Dan.
Hey.
They live in all of these cameras. Where were you born?
Austin, Texas, right where we are.
You were born in Austin, Texas?
St. David's Hospital off I-35, if the location is still the same. Yeah.
No way, you were born here.
Yeah, my dad was in law school at UT.
When you were born, he was in law school.
Yeah, and he got out of law school quickly after I was born, which is good. And he got a job at a law firm in Houston.
Your dad's a lawyer.
Yeah, was. Yeah,
He was a lawyer.
passed away.
Passed away.
Matter of fact, he passed away 7 years ago tomorrow.
Oh,
Or is today the 15th or 16th?
I think
It's important now. I want to know.
I'll tell you. 15th.
Tomorrow, yeah. This Ides of March, it was Caesar that passed away this day. By Brutus. Passed him away.
How many siblings?
I have three siblings.
And which in the birth order were you?
I'm the oldest.
You're the first.
Mhm.
Do you follow the kind of birth order type of thing where you're like the leader vibes and you always did, what you needed to do and were structured and, that idea of the first kiddo?
Yeah, and I think that most first kiddos are sort of recruited, especially if they have younger siblings, because okay, now you have to help take care of this kid. Well, I didn't want to have a kid.
They're recruited by the parents.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
you're the oldest one. You're on
the oldest.
You're on our team.
Yeah. And everything's hard. You're the tip of the spear. When I got my driver's license, I could barely drive down the street without it being some huge negotiation. And is it going to be safe? And then by the time my second brother, approached the age of where you start to get your driver's license.
They're like, whatever.
Yeah. My mom just took him down to the DPS and got him a hardship license at 14.
What?
May have been 15. But yeah. And it was like, wait, you
What?
have to go through hell like I did?
No. You just don't want to drive that dude anywhere.
The burden of being the oldest child drove me to a lot of unhealthy behaviors.
So you were born, what's the spread between you? Three brothers?
We were right out of two brothers and a sister. It was me, my sister,
And then,
brother. And we're all vaguely 2 years apart.
Wait, your sister, brother, 4 kids?
Yeah. Three siblings. I
Okay.
have 3 siblings.
Right. You, your sister, brother.
It's a math problem.
Oh my goodness. Were y'all within a couple of years of each other, or was there the surprise kiddo that came 10 years later?
My youngest brother was closer to 3 years, but the rest of us were cooked up about every 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the way you did it back then.
Dang. And when was your earliest memory kind of as a human? Do
That's
you
an
remember?
interesting question. That's a therapy question right there.
You
I
just
can't-
created a space
Yeah.
for me to walk.
You just created a big space for me to walk into. So thanks to the miracle of photography, I'm not sure which is my memory and which is a photograph that I've seen. But the first live action thing that was not photographed that I remember was my 5th birthday. My mom told me later it was my 5th. And there was this is before you could spray paint, people's faces on birthday cake. So it was this little carnival scene out of paper, and the candles caught fire. And so the whole thing kind of caught fire, and it was a big deal. What do you do? It smelled awful. Nobody wants to eat the cake. And I remember that being, scary. But this is interesting. I was more scared by the way my mom was reacting than the fact the cake was on fire. The adults are here. The cake will probably not be on fire long, but it was frightening to see an adult be frightened. So that's kind of my very earliest memory.
Yeah. That reminds me of growing up. If your kiddo fell down and scraped their knee, the way that you respond to that scraped knee is going to more influence in the way they react to it than the scraped knee
Absolutely.
itself.
Yeah.
If you're freaking out, they're going to be they're going to start freaking out.
Or don't care. It'll be fine, darling. Stop. I want you to stop crying right now. It's all these different ways of reacting. You're not old enough to know what to do. It hurts.
Yeah.
When things hurt my body, water comes to my eyes. You know, it's
Yeah.
like I'll cry.
There's blood. Yeah.
Right. But we're taught like how awful or insignificant or whatever those things.
What kind of emotional response meets an action or
Right.
something?
Well, it's what emotional response meets with congruence or approval from your parents, which is everything. They control the food.
They control
and the shelter.
You rely on them to survive.
Right.
So
And as a kid, you're hungry for information.
and love.
Yeah. And you could and here's this is the most interesting is that as a kid, even a really young kid, you're really good at sensing things that you can't understand, but you can tell. You know, it's sort of like the parents finally reluctantly tell the children, you know, ages 10, 12, and 8, that they're going to get a divorce. And all the kids are thinking like, you know, and they're trying to inform this amazing thing that they didn't know about. And they're like, oh, that's why it sucked around here for so long. That's why mom and dad behaved in these certain ways. They didn't have the words for it and may not for quite some time. But kids notice. They are attuned to the emotional atmosphere. They want to know what's going on and how you're supposed to respond.
The vibe.
Yeah.
And did your folks get a divorce?
They waited way too late. Yeah, they did. They did.
So was your mom always that way, like reactionary when something happened, kind of going overboard with a response?
You know, my mom was a volatile person emotionally, and it took me 40 years or so to understand really what was going on with my mom. On my mom's side of the family, mood disorders run like wildfire. Without going into the specifics, on my dad's side of the family, everybody's pretty intelligent and pretty uses humor as a compensating behavior, maybe too much, but not a lot of dysfunction in the sense of like, because they're that way, they have a harder time getting along in the world. My mom, on the other hand, I had these distinct memories of like the adults, her father, my grandfather, and her brother changing at some point and becoming very worried and kind of like not as much fun to be around and not understanding what was going on or why that was. And then in my mom, I watched her go from a very socially engaged, highly intelligent human who was kind of doing her best, you know, to kind of raise kids kind of out of the manual is the way you did it. Especially, you know, you're at home, you're the mom, and dad's over here working. So it was all very classic for that time period. Something happened to my mom. About the time I was 14 and she must have been 30. No, 40. My mom's drinking got a lot different. There was not as much laughter with alcohol. And she became very hard to predict whether she was going to be happy, sad, or whatever. And then this is like my understanding of 14 years old watching it.
Yeah.
And then finally, she became very unhappy with herself and everything around her and critical. That's when she started going to therapy, by the way. And it was 2 years later when I went. Therapy gave her some tools and some understanding. She had this whole new language that she brought home and started, you know, it kind of things started to make sense. I was grateful. You know, she was able to talk about, you notice these things I do, you know, I don't need to be that way anymore or whatever. That was really important. But on her side of the family, you know, some suicide, you know, mostly around mood disorders. And I inherited that. And I got to a very late point in my life before I realized that I was swimming against a current that I didn't understand. And that one of the things that made me a great entertainer or a good person at a party or a good person to be around was that I was volatile in ways that I tried to make work for me until they didn't anymore.
Volatile.
Yeah, emotionally volatile. Yeah.
And that was exciting at a party, that exuberance or that like...
I just thought everybody kind of got a little too overly involved, you know?
Yeah.
I was really quite good at sort of being able to read the room and not go too far. But what I didn't realize is that I was kind of dealing with this internally all the time. And I think it was one of the reasons that I learned to act out with drugs and alcohol. It was like I was able to modulate those effects to some degree. And you get a chance for the first time to hang out with people. Hey, this will make you feel really good. It's like, wow, we haven't talked about that feeling. I've never heard about really good. Let's try that. It was just weird. It was kind of psychotherapy was useful and helpful to me and taught me things, and so did drug addiction.
Yeah.
Oddly,
When you kind of hinted at this like classic family dynamic, and I'm assuming you meant like dad was the breadwinner and your mom was a stay-at-home mom.
Beaver, right? Nobody even knows what Leave It to Beaver is. It's just classical mom at home is the housewife.
And yeah, you had a stay-at-home
because you're in the
mom.
South, you have a black maid to help with all the chores.
Y'all had a maid?
We sure did.
That was live-in?
No.
But you were affluent. Your dad being a lawyer, went to UT. That's a good law school.
My dad, I never had a concept of need or money, mostly because my parents never really expressed anything about money to me. And then my dad made partner when I was like 11 years old, and then he became married to his work. We didn't see him very much anymore. And when we did, he was usually drinking too much. And then my mom got lonely, and so she started drinking too much. And they had that in common. So that there were times that were fun around alcohol, and they had a great time, but they were ephemeral and they didn't last, and they were growing further apart, and our family grew further apart.
So dad was working and then
highly successful,
working a ton,
right out of Mad Men. It was hard drinking, hard smoking, hard working lawyers.
Good old boys club. And mom was staying home taking care of the family.
Mom was an ex-Chi Omega that had turned into a law firm wife.
And she found a successful mate.
100%.
That was what the goal back then.
They did everything. And by the way, both of them grew up in small town Arkansas. My dad, everybody in his family turned into Methodist ministers, except for my dad, highly successful corporate attorney. My mom, her father and her father's family were sort of like the big shots in a small town. And I have a great uncle that owned Murray's drugstore that everybody went to in Melbourne, Arkansas. And then it was never real clear to me what my grandfather, her father, did for a living. I knew he was in World War I. I knew he liked to fish. And I knew he had some money because he turned it into a cool lake house and some things. But as it turns out, he was sort of like the benevolent loan shark, and he got into land. So he bought land and harvested pine trees. But he was like, his function in the community was that, he was able to help people out, and then people would repay him.
Cool.
Weird.
So
we're kind of way off into a field here. I don't even know how to.
No, this is exactly where we're supposed to be. If we're not safe, then we're in a brave space.
I certainly seem to be disclosing a lot, so we're doing something.
Well, I want you to know right now that you're doing it in front of cameras and audio stuff. So
yeah, I'm highly aware of that, and that's cool. This is a unique experience for me because it is a chance to put some things together in real time with somebody that knows me well enough, but still doesn't know me well.
Yeah,
but we have a really intense bond. Like we have a good story.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
When you think of felt sense of love as a kid, like let's just go from dad to mom. When were the moments where you felt sense of love with your dad?
My dad kind of took it upon himself to teach me to build models, to play with slot cars, which was like cars that you go around an electric track with a motor on them and you race people. And he introduced me to music because he could play the viola, the banjo, the ukulele, and he would love to perform. And he got me to perform along with him. And this was like, me being 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. And then success in law took him away from music and the opportunities for us to kind of do this thing together. And, but there was, he showed me how to fly gasoline powered airplanes and, on the control line and stuff like that. We did some cool stuff together. I got things from my father that my other 3 sibs did not. And, my mom, her gift to me was probably one of the smartest people that I was around. She read, probably to escape, she read voraciously. everything from trashy novels to like the classics. And I remember she subscribed to this thing where, once every 6 weeks or so, you'd get a classic novel, bound in some nice way. And they were all along there. And she broke it down for me. She's like, honey, these stories, when you know these stories, so much of the world will make sense. Other people really don't know. Like if somebody starts acting like Dionysus or something at a party, but you will if you read these books. I was like, fuck, I want to read these books. So I, looked at it and was like, man, I can't read this at all. This will have to come later. And she also did some things for me that were like astonishing, like in this case, music. I remember she's telling me the Beatles are a thing. They've officially given me Beatles records and I've bought them. I have a little record player. I must have been somewhere around 7 or 8. And the Beatles were on a cover of a magazine. And my mom broke it down for me. Honey, the Beatles are in a tough place because they literally can't perform because they cannot hear themselves live anymore. So they're not going to perform live. And other people are really trying to tell them what to do. And now that I'm thinking about this must be more like 10. And I was like, God damn, Mom knows about the Beatles. She knows about those books up there.
She's like an insider.
Yeah, right, honey. So unfortunately, some of her insights were not as welcome. And she was concerned that I liked music as much as I did.
Really?
Yes. She was afraid that I would be seduced by the idea of being a musician as a way of life.
And you were.
Yes. And it led to
she was right.
What I discussed in therapy many times and is known now. Like it's apocryphal. It is the dishwashing machine talk between my mom and myself. I remember telling my Mom, I can go to Shakey's Pizza. Somebody's playing there, some jazz band. I know I can get in the back. I'm just telling you because I don't want to have to sneak out. Like this is really what I want to do. We've got it figured out and we're going to go do this thing. My mom's like, it's a school night. And I was like, well, it's these people, I can't remember who it was. And I know I can get in. And my mom says, this is not a good idea. And so I decided at that point, like it was time to share with her something that I'd been kind of like chewing on. I was like, Mom, I think I want to be a musician. And I think that you need to let me go in a very 14-year-old way, because this is a part of my training. This is who I want to be.
Yeah, you're not just going as an audience member.
So
you're going.
My mom is kind of cleaning the kitchen. And she's putting something in the dishwasher, and she kind of, my memory is that she kind of stops, puts the dish down, kind of squares up with me. So Dawn, being a musician is a job for somebody that can't get real work. And I was just like, she goes, that's not what you're going to do. And then I remember, this is probably, I'm kind of mashing together some things that happened over a period of time. But my next question was like, well, then what am I going to do? And she goes, well, you're going to go to college. You're going to pledge a fraternity. Those will become your friends and the people that you work around for the rest of your life, and you'll be successful. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? And she goes, you'll figure that out. And I said, when will I do that? She goes, it happens around the fraternity time because a bunch of the people start doing something and you'll find your way. And I said, well, what about all those books you were talking about? Yeah, you're going to go to college. You're going to get exposed to all that stuff. And I remember not having a way to come back except to be upset. I don't know what I did, but that... And of course, Dad is not there. Dad's not there to be a part of this conversation.
Yeah.
It's Mom's the only one that has any power now. And I was really confused. And I've often wondered that if she had said something like, oh my God, you really are good at the guitar, honey. At least you'd start looking at schools. I'd probably be a fucking accountant now. If she had accepted that and it wasn't the road up the pathway with all the monsters, I don't know if I would have done it. Because I was not the best player.
She turned you into a dragon slayer. She was like, there be dragons there. And you're like, well, sounds like an adventure.
Do you think that somewhere inside her that she was going to do the hard thing with me? That's odd. How about that? That she was going to do the hard thing with me so I could have this experience? That was part of it was some sort of a fantasy novel where she had to secretly discourage me so that the right thing would happen. I don't know. I think that she was probably just trying to really help a brother out. I'm learning about the limitations of parental approval. or maybe the benefits of parental disapproval.
We were talking about, so your mom, the felt sense of love from your mom came when she kind of talked to you like an adult, when she shared with you this insider vibe.
That's right. That, you know, I've never experienced somebody giving it back to me that way. Because she did. She dropped all pretense because she really needed to help me.
Yeah.
You know, like, and to kind of stop this thing now. Well, what it did is it started a long rolling rebellion on my part, and where I had to finesse. There was two things I had to finesse. One, talking them into letting me have a motorcycle, because I knew it was part of my DNA was to have a motorcycle. The other one was to get me a goddamn electric guitar. I don't want an acoustic guitar. I want an electric one, which I finally got from 10 years old. And then the final one was like, pretend to look the other way. And what I will do is I will be good enough at school to get into a really good college, and I will get that far, and then I'll figure it out. And so that worked. That worked for everybody. We had skirmishes that would come up. I think
where's the question is really about love and feeling warm and tender. And I noticed you answered it, and then we quickly diverge into something different.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there were moments where you felt like this woman loves me.
Yes, I felt, yes. And I think that I sensed when she was telling me about the Beatles that she was like I was a good person to jam that idea with. That she wasn't just being a good mom.
Were there other things y'all did where you felt like this human being loves me?
Yeah, I have some memories of,
because with your dad, it's really clear.
It's really clear. There was this thing, this rise of attention,
and things y'all did together.
Yeah. Yeah,
y'all played music together. Right. Y'all did slot cars together.
Airplanes. Yeah.
But just like having a small conversation in my mind doesn't. Were there things you did with your mom where you were like, "Dang, she's."
No, my mom was pretty much the arranger, producer, and enforcer of the house. Like, my mom did not like come to if I played baseball. I did. I played Little League baseball. She didn't come. She dropped me off, pick me up.
Drop off and pick up.
Yeah.
But not like supporting you in the grandstands.
No.
But you felt loved.
I did. My mom made a good start at it. I think that having 4 kids was probably a couple of kids too many for my mom.
Well,
you know,
in a world where dad is going to totally separate himself from the household and focus on work all the time.
Yeah, and once again, I'm giving you the kid version of my perceptions.
That's all you. Well, now the adult version. Looking through kid.
As you're talking, I can't. My mom was great. She took me to swimming lessons. I think she watched a few of the swimming lessons, especially when they started to report that I was having problems.
Did you wish she was there in the grandstand when you were playing ball and stuff? Did you notice a lack of?
It never occurred to me.
It didn't.
No, she gave me food. She drove me there. She, was kind enough to listen to a lot of my stuff. Here, I will tell you one thing that's interesting. As a creative, my very first creative things that I remember is that I requested my mom to get me a hammer, nails, and lumber because I wanted to build an airplane. And I was really sure that I could do it. And so she got me 2 sticks of like 1x4 and she showed me how to use the saw so I could saw one of them a little bit shorter, and then I nailed it close to the front, and that was my airplane. And like, she was like all about that. She like totally indulged that with me. So
that's
then
love.
They found that when I had access to tools, I would take shit apart. And they came home one day and I'd taken the dryer apart and didn't know how to get it back together.
Oh, I did that.
And then I remember once they gave me a choice as to like what I wanted for my birthday. And this was a fairly early birthday, like 7, something like that, 8. And I wanted the clock, the electric clock that hung unused in the garage because I'd fantasized about taking it apart, which I did. Got the thing. So, and my mom, like, she helped me with that kind of stuff. And she did. She gave me a great curiosity about literature. And she gave me, that she transformed herself into a good Chi Omega lawyer, big city attorney's wife, from a kid that, grew up in Malvern, Arkansas. And so she did some amazing things. And it was just hard when she wasn't loving herself anymore.
Yeah.
And therefore all of, she became more of sort of a barrier to certain things. And then she wasn't there in some ways that would have been really cool. Yeah. But it never, like, while I resonate more to my mom's unrealized dreams and her own mood disorder that she didn't understand. Like, from this point, this perch, I have a lot of compassion for her. But, it was really hard dealing with her in her last, like, 6-7 years of life.
She passed away as well.
She did. And, this would be a good point to just say that one cool part about my story is my dad remarried and got sober in AA.
After you?
No. This was when this was around 86 or so. This is when Dad I've pulled the eject lever on grad school, and I'm kind of knocking around in the music world.
And doing drugs and alcohol.
A lot. And so my dad becomes sober, and I learned that he's going to AA, and it looks to be a kind of like, this is really looking good on him. Mm-hmm. And of course, I didn't see that I had anything to do with that at all. And 7 years later, I got sober. And about 6 years after that, my middle brother got sober. And about 10 years after that, my youngest brother got sober. And my sister, who did not have addiction problems, became Al-Anon. And so my mom didn't. My mom tried over and over, rehab after rehab. The crazy shit, hiding alcohol all over the house, like hunkering down and nobody seeing her for weeks, and us having to go over there and get somebody to let us in, and just awful, awful stuff. And while she died sort of in care, she burned through a ton of money, kind of wound up in a situation that seemed very unfair to her, as she sort of collapsed into a more childlike state due to dementia and probably alcohol and drugs. She was very much into drugs too, but she worked to doctors to get the stuff she wanted. Mm. So it was real sad. And the rest of the family, we found this thing, and it became an unbelievable opportunity for all of us as we both kind of approached it. And so I've been sober now. It'll be, you're not supposed to look into the future, but if I make it to June, it'll be 27 years. And it's one of the best things that ever happened to me. And that my siblings followed my dad's lead and joined me there, gave us a language and a grammar and a vocabulary to understand each other. So that's, if I have any sort of success story, my parents created the circumstances where that thing could happen. And the sad part is that it just couldn't include my mom. Mm. Yeah. Her archetype was going to be too damaged.
I think about, I have these Rubik's Cubes.
Yeah. And I've noticed that you've got some pretty intense ones.
I think about my mom. Mm-hmm. I think about my family. And I think about birth. Mm. And I think people come out like this. Yeah. Like all the greens with the greens and the reds with the reds and the blues and the whites. And this, for everyone, I don't think this is unique to, I think as trauma has different, it's relative, but there's trauma everywhere, whether it's spilled milk or a dumpster fire or a mom freaking out about an on-fire birthday cake. There's going to be trauma, and there's going to be twists of the Rubik's Cube. A dad that's not available when you're scared. Right. And then...
such a good metaphor.
You get a little bit older, and you get puberty, and now this Rubik's Cube is now like, oh my God, it's a 3x3.
I mean, you're halfway to just writing your own book.
It's like so much.
This is great.
It's so much bigger, and it's more complex, and people are still spinning that bad boy, still spinning it. How are you gonna figure all this out? And then you get a little bit older, and you get whatever the heck this is.
Mhm.
Or you get whatever this is. Mirrors
Yeah.
and different geometric shapes, or you get this other thing. And what I think about when I think about your mom is sometimes they're not spins. Sometimes someone takes this thing and throws it on the ground and stomps on it.
Mm.
And you don't even have the
Mm.
pieces. Because when I wake up, when I have agency, when I realize that, man, something's not working, I need to grow, I need to change, I need to self-actualize, I need to whatever it is, I need to develop, I need to be a better human being. All the frameworks and all the workshops and all the books and all the mentors, all the wizened folks that helped me on my, hero's journey or fool's journey or whatever we want to call it, helped me find a way to put this back in order in some fashion, right? And if I don't have these cubes, no matter what I do, like your mom, you can't put it back together. And I don't know if that's what it was going on with your mom. She had these
It's pretty
experiences,
congruent
but
with experience, my experience of her.
I hope that I've got all the pieces. I mean, I don't think right now.
How do we know? You know what? Maybe to complete your metaphor, we know because we can start to find order, and it's not all just random. If we manipulate it long enough, we start to see a pattern.
You start to see a pattern. I could see that. I hope I can figure it out because, I want to be a good human being and I want to be a good father. I want to be a good, fellow man. I want to figure out how to, I found the top. I figured
Which
the
is
top out.
probably better than a lot of people do once their cube gets shoveled.
And I think, yeah, so your mom, I'm sure, did the best she could. We all do the best we can. And we don't all get all the pieces. And we all don't wake up and say, I need to order this.
No. They can't identify that something's wrong because they don't have enough of a context to know it could be better.
Yeah. Thinking of, so we talked about felt sense of love.
Mm-hmm.
What about discipline? What did discipline look like in your house?
Spankings.
You got spankings?
No.
Did mom do it or did dad do it?
Mostly, I remember my mom, and you didn't want dad to do it because that was a harsher punishment. But I don't remember. I mean, my mom made me go out and pick a switch. And you switch me. You know what that
Really?
is? That's a very Southern thing.
Oh, yeah. My grandmother made me do that.
Yeah. And I remember that a few times. Back of the legs, just brutal. But oddly enough, I don't have traumatic memories around being, disciplined in those ways.
You don't?
I don't.
It was never over the top.
Well, I think that I had my kid version of when I'm an adult, I'll never do this to my kid, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But part of my wounds don't come from my mom's hand on me.
Yeah.
And I know what that looks like in other people. So it's one of the cool things about being a therapist is that you start to see other people's reactions to fairly common things that kind of run through the human experience. And I realized being disciplined in that way, in some ways, maybe made me feel safe. Did you ever have a thing where you tried to talk your parents into punishing you?
Mm-mm.
Okay, well, it's not totally unheard of. But I can remember once, and I don't remember the circumstances, but I was trying to get my mom to spank me so I'd feel better. That is a very weird thing.
That's weird.
Yes. But I had somehow gotten to a place where I did not like the way that I felt about something, or I was ashamed or something. And I, instead of going and confessing to this bad thing to my mom, I just tried to skip that part and ask her, try to talk her into
punish
spanking
me. I did wrong.
It'll be better if you do this.
You couldn't
No, see, that's just it. That was step one to learning how to be hard on myself. that if I put myself through some sort of an emotional like challenge that's unnecessary, if I feel bad enough, if it hurts enough, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
It's really pretty weird. And it's not an unheard of thing. However, it's not very common. Normally, it's more sort of like Stockholm syndrome type stuff. It's like, you get released from being a prisoner, and so you're not very comfortable with anybody being nice to you. Like you're calibrated towards like understanding situations through pain.
Mm-hmm.
It's just this was just a weird version of that.
Yeah. When you were young, did you identify as a good kid?
Yeah.
You were good.
I remember it was when I kind of came to that conclusion. I was either in third grade or fifth grade. I can't remember which one it was, but I saw that I had all E's in my conduct for the year on my report card, and E was excellent, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, and there were some B's and some C's and some A's, but conduct-wise, it was like, oh, that's right. I don't cause any problems. I'm not behaving in a way that gets a lot of attention in a negative way at school. I was like, I think I like that. I think I'll try to do that. And so I think that was maybe just a step into that space of where I could use me just being sort of a charming person to smooth the way in front of me. And that was both a wonderful thing and also a pretty awful thing, because I didn't get a chance to learn from some of the grosser knocks that you get for behaving poorly, and learning from it. I just wanted to avoid negative attention, which is a different thing.
Yeah. What is it? I notice you hold your mouth like this. What is it? You don't have to stop doing it.
No, it's something
What
that
is it?
I'm totally okay with it. It's self-soothing. Touching my face soothes me, and it makes me more connected. It is a way to reinforce the fact that it feels good to be here right now, and to hear this. And it also, I think other people have shaped my behavior by the way they respond, that people will get closer to me if I'm touching myself this way.
Yeah.
And I like it when people get close to me.
The darn light went off again.
I know. Let's do something about it.
Oh, I think we're gonna accept it.
Okay. And we could very well be that we're at the end of
No,
this.
we're not.
Okay.
We got time.
Okay.
It's just I'm learning.
Your questions are so good that for this reason, that you are allowing me to kind of effortlessly stand back and look at a lot of things in a way where I can see the full scope. And in therapy, I'm used to kind of zooming in and then making connections from that point. But this is interesting. I'm not sure I've ever disclosed this much about this many sides of my life and in one time.
I think I'm flattered.
I think we are doing some amazing work. But yeah, you've created the context.
Can I share something?
Yeah.
I want to be able to make this right in the middle of the interview, because I think that would be the coolest thing. I want to be like, I do all the things.
I thought you were going to do it.
Yeah, I know you did.
I did.
Yeah, I want to do it. And just like in therapy and in workshops, I need an algorithm that I haven't memorized yet. So I'm going to do this algorithm.
All bow to the algorithm. That's great.
I'm going to do this algorithm. And I think that when I'm done with the algorithm, it'll work. So we go right, forward, right, and then back twice. 1, 2, and then right, forward, right, and then back 2, right, 2, and then back 2. Wow. There we go. Sorry, I was holding that in my mind.
I'm so glad you did. So Phil and I were in a band together called the SK1 Project.
Yes, we were.
Yes. And so one of the things that I always admired about you, and I thought that you went to North Texas, didn't you?
Yeah.
You were a great product of North Texas because you took highly improvisational music and you were able to sort of force us at times to like play an arrangement. Like you would start doing things that would suggest, oh, this is the chorus.
Yeah.
When the rest of us were just making some, like creating a texture. And you were good at form. And also when I heard you play your instruments, I was impressed. It's like you, and so it doesn't surprise me at all that you would have the sheet music for that for that puzzle.
The deal is I've got the sheet music for the 6x6. I've got the sheet music.
Oh, that's great. You can read music.
But I wasn't going to try that one.
That's so funny.
This is a little bit of like a sorbet because I want to get back into because we'll get past the family thing.
Okay.
The family thing is rife with, all the stardust, all the material that make us up and why we are the way we are. So I'm really interested in it. Discipline, felt sense of love. You were a good kid. Was there a scapegoat? Was there a bad kid in the family? Was there an identified patient in the family?
So at various times. So the first one that I was aware of was my youngest brother Tom, who had a learning disability, and the whole family had to kind of get together and sort of like learn how to help him. I don't really remember too much about this because it was at a time when the family was in a lot of turmoil. So he was kind of scapegoated, like things may not be like other families, and it's because of him. That's not what was. That was not the overt message, but it was just sort of like the way it felt. Okay, so my sister, once she went through puberty, started making like having boyfriends that my parents like totally disapproved of. And there was always this, I remember, some of the arguing between my mom and my sister learning to kind of out mom by just going off and doing what she wants to do. So she was sort of a scapegoat at that time. My second brother, Bill, second in order, so he was older than Tom. He was sort of like the golden child, but still he was the one that got in trouble. But somehow that was all okay. But still he took on that energy. And then for me, it was when I started to do drugs, like and made music my clear choice, and sort of my junior year in high school, and I became a problem, and it was a problem that was solved by distance and money, and I really was just kind of like lost. I didn't know what it was that I was headed towards, and I kind of didn't care as long as I kind of felt okay.
Distance and money? Yeah.
My dad had given us a really generous allowance, like when we went off to college, so we wouldn't have to work, but we would still, and so when my dad's sort of drinking got to a certain level, that just didn't stop. You quit college, the money still came. And I remember not knowing how to handle money, how to pay my bills, how to stay out of debt, how to use a credit card. None of that was ever taught to me. I made all of the mistakes. And my father, really, the way that he expressed his love was through that money. That money was a stand-in for slot cars and gasoline airplanes and stuff. And it was with my sibs. And when my dad got sober, part of the step work of doing the 12 steps is to make it right with the people that you may have harmed. And so he did that. And the way that he made right was to cut us all off. I was not too impressed with that move and was not very happy about it, but thank God he did it. Thank God he did it. And it cleared the way for us to finally have a relationship that was back to where we started. We rode motorcycles all over the place together.
Yeah.
And had a killer relationship.
You traded slot cars for motorcycles. Yeah. We shared time together.
Funny thing, Dad was the one I spent years wearing them down. They finally let me get a motorcycle. And my father was the one, no. My older brother was hurt really bad on a motorcycle. They're awful. And so then fast forward to me being in rehab when I was 36 years old, and my dad somehow falls in with a bunch of friends that he really likes that all ride motorcycles. And so his promise to me was like, if you can stay sober, we'll take motorcycle trips together. And I was like, I could care less at that point. It was like life sucked so hard for me. I was like, whatever. So he gives me a motorcycle to keep over at my house in the hopes that it will sort of light a fire. And the kindling took. And we ended up, it was always a great story. He was the one that would never let me have one. And then when I didn't want one, he was the one that dangled it all in front of me. It was just so funny. And it became, a big part of my life.
Oh,
Yeah. It was this, there was this shape to what happened in our family. And with the, even with my mom sort of having a tragic end, I've considered myself incredibly lucky. And here's a weird thing too. My siblings and I, we are very close.
You are?
Yeah. We are.
What does closeness look like for y'all?
Well, I live probably a mile away from my brother Bill. My brother Tom lives now in Colorado with his wife Deirdre. My sister lives probably three miles from me, and my stepmom, who I call mom now, she is just the most amazing person. She lives right on Highway 6, so it's like we're all sort of proximal. And we're not all up in each other's business, but when one of us is hurting, we're all trying to help. And all of us have a ton of spiritual tools and emotional tools from our therapy experiences, our MKP experience, in the 12 steps. So it's like we instantly connect when we're around each other, and we don't have resentments or never resolved issues that are between us. Yeah. All of us consider ourselves very lucky to have escaped with so much. I mean, it's just, we're the story that proves the rule that most of the times things are far more complicated.
Yeah. Do y'all have rituals growing up or now?
Yeah. If it's Christmas, we kind of know whose house we're going to be at.
Y'all all come together for Christmas?
Oh, absolutely.
Every year?
Yeah.
Any other rituals?
Not any of the
they don't have to be like cultural classics. It seems like your dad and you had a ritual of riding those motorcycles.
Yeah. Yes, there are other rituals that I sense, but I don't think I can name. Like for instance, if it's my sister's birthday, we all ignore it because it's the day before. No, it's tax day. My sister gets cheaped out on, and then my middle brother Bill, his birthday is December 28th, which means he totally loses the birthday wars. And so there's this sort of like, oh yeah, we should do something about that. Or I feel that way. Actually, we should do something about that.
So the ritual is we should do something about that. Right. You don't ever do anything about it.
We're so close. It's not like there's this huge hole in our social or our familiar bond. It's just sort of like, ugh. Yeah. So for me, the ritual is like every year going like, God, I should do that thing better. But you know what? I just moved into this house where the plan is it's a big enough house. For years, I lived in this 900 square foot bungalow. And so this house is big enough to where I can have a proper dining room set.
Ooh.
And so my goal is to score the dining room set so we can have Christmas at my house next year. Nice. And have a nice kitchen too. The only bad part is it's one of these patio homes. So it's like 3 levels and the main living area is like the second level up. So there's stairs for the older people. But that's the only bad thing.
How old are you?
66. Wait a second. Yeah, I'm 66.
66.
Yeah.
You and your siblings need help upstairs?
No, my stepmom.
Oh, your stepmom does?
Yeah, no.
I was starting to be scared.
Friends.
I was like, I'm going to lose. What's going to happen to me?
No, no, but I have, one of my very best friends is just like a month younger than me, and the stairs are a big problem for him. Of course, he has Parkinson's too, so that's a thing.
I just got a curiosity about your tattoos. Can we talk about them?
Yeah, sure. You just want me to go? Okay.
Which ones? How many do you have?
This was the first one. I think I have 5. When I took my daughter Joanne to get her first bank account, the woman's name on the little thing on her desk was Agape. And I thought, that's a cool word. I've heard
Agape
that word.
is the Greek love. It's a friendship love, right?
Nope, that's philia.
Okay.
Agape is the highest form of love. Man's love for his fellow man or God's love for man.
Okay.
Okay.
Is agape.
Yeah, that's agape. And I became intrigued with the word. I thought about it. I just loved that word. And then I fell in with a bunch of crazy Christians for a while. And so I started looking at the New Testament written in the original Greek and trying to parse some shit out of it.
Oh my
It
God.
was so much fun.
Damn.
And so I was like, I was working with this band that had a lot of tattoos. I was like, I should get agape tattooed on me. I like the idea of having a word.
Yeah.
On me. There's a word.
Yeah.
And it's kind of mystical and has a good, I can tell people what it is. So after a lot of thinking, I decided to go get it. I wanted to have it here so I could see it.
Yeah.
And I went, and Christy came with me, my wife. And
That's agape. Let me see it.
Yeah.
Where's the G?
This is it.
That's a G.
That's the Greek G. Gamma. Yeah.
Agape.
Yeah.
Oh my God. No one would ever decipher that.
Well, this is so great. So I get it. It's my first tattoo. I'm like 50 years old or something. So it's like it's kind of funny I've waited that long, and maybe even younger than that. And I go to this party, and this super drunk dude goes like, "Dude, you've got Aryan tattooed on your arm." And I looked at it. I was like, "Oh, it kind of does look like Aryan."
If you're trash, maybe.
So, well, here the deal was that it was my hubris moment. I was so proud, to like put this amazing, cool thing that's going to help people understand me or whatever. And it was immediately misunderstood is one of the worst things it could possibly be.
Yeah.
But over the years, I've it's turned into a great story. Overwhelmingly, the people that ask me about this tattoo are checkout women at grocery stores. Don't know what the deal is, but I'm probably somewhere around 4 to 3 to 1 ratio. The people that would just comment on it. That's cool.
Checkout ladies. Yeah.
I was checked out by the checkout lady.
You were always
There's a lot of certain symmetry for that.
perpetually.
So that was the first one. The second one was two. Was this symbol here?
What does that symbol mean?
Okay, so I'm into fountain pens, and I'm drawing some shit with a fountain pen that kind of flexes, and I draw this kind of loop-de-loop, and I put a cross on the bottom and an arrow on the thing over here, and I was like, that's cool. It's sort of like the archetypal combination of anima and animus, the male and the female, it's really cool. And so I started drawing it all the time until I refined it, and then my heart sank because it was like, dude, you didn't come up with this. Like that's...
You didn't?
No. I'm thinking I must have seen it.
Yeah.
I reverse Google searched it, and son of a fucking bitch, nothing came back.
You did come up with it.
I did come up with it.
Yeah.
At least as far as me and Google are concerned. And to me, I was involved in a friendship at the time where it was really taking me to some interesting places of like feeling my own sense of masculinity and femininity.
Yeah.
And this is not, I'm not talking sort of around something that was weird and sexual or something like that. It was not that at all. But it was a very spiritual thing. And I thought, I'm going to get that fucking thing tattooed on me.
Heck yeah.
So I had played with for years of like other words, and I've always been intrigued by the end of the song, The End by the Beatles on Abbey Road. The last lyrics, the last song that they performed together at the same time. And the lyrics ostensibly, if you want to go just by releases and stuff, that it was one of the last things that they wrote together. And so I got the last verse, and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. Because it always it hit me.
In the end,
The love you take is equal to the love you make.
Yeah. Oh, you can't do it too close to. You can't do the whole thing. I can't pay for this. I can't pay for this release. The Beatles do not give you a.
That was a horrible rendition. But yeah, so I did the wings.
Nice.
And
for when you have the gun show.
Yeah, which for me is never. But I had the reason I decided this. Sorry, the reason I decided this place is I had this patient during COVID. Never was in the same room with him ever. Treated him for about 2 years, and the dude was I can't give a lot of identifying information, but he was somebody who was in the education system, working as a professional, and he was literary. And one day, after I've been working with him for about a year and a half, he's on the screen. He's like, "It's back here," and he's got words all up and down here that up until that point I had never seen. Never, and I was intrigued. Yeah. I never asked him about it because I didn't want to. My curiosity to open up the wrong kind of space between us. And so, but I thought, if I get another tattoo, it's going to be So that was
influenced.
That. Yeah.
Okay.
So
next one.
The next one is, oh God, this is so weird. I can't remember if these two were at the same time or not, but I was involved in a creative relationship with somebody where the words recipro became shorthand for us of like we're seeing things the same way. Reciprocate,
yeah.
And so it became part of a message shorthand, talking, working together shorthand. And then somehow we fucked it up, or I did at some point because I'm dyslexic, and I started to say, what was it? Respiro.
You forgot. You forgot.
It's just like for my test. I can remember for the test. I have my algorithm.
Respiro.
And so this person, all I'm thinking of is like in the mental health word, Respirodol. It's a pretty heavy fucking antipsychotic drug. And Recipro and Respirodol kind of like went together for some reason. And so this person and I got this is my handwriting.
What does it say?
Recipro, which now I think of it. Recipro. It's like a Harry Potter like spell.
It's a spell.
It's a spell. So anyway, it keeps me connected to this person, which is great. And then finally,
SK1, baby.
The SK1 logo off of the Casio SK1 keyboard, which thanks to my original, it turns out I found a picture of my best friend holding my SK1 in my home in the 1980s. I had no idea, but I still had it. I thought he went back that far. And Kevin Ryan was doing production work with me, and he was a brilliant arranger producer. And he's like, "This is going to sound so cool." And he gets a SK1 and he sings into it and he starts playing the notes, and it sounded unbelievable because it's the 8-bit version of your voice.
Yeah,
I found that my voice sounds really good through an SK1 and mid-range type stuff. And so I just started adding it to all my productions, and I loved it. It was so much fun. It was playful. I didn't have to be a master at it. My right and left brain glitch only made it better. And I became the guy that always had the SK1s. Well, and then like it caught fire as we in the studio, the various people that worked there and sort of were all up in each other's lives. Lee started circuit bending SK1s.
Yeah.
You started playing.
I was circuit. Yeah, we were both doing that.
And then Alan, who became a later member, was circuit bending, speaking spells and stuff.
Yeah.
And so we came together and we had a band of
SK1 project.
SK1 project.
And Heba.
Yeah, Heba. Oh my God. And we took it fairly seriously. We played some shows.
Dude, we got some good stuff.
We did.
Those I have SK1 that's glitched out in the utility room, and the Speaking's math and the Speaking. They're all on the wall in there.
I'll
show you
so many. I have a lot of SK1s. I have one table bend SK1 that's really beautiful. And I love small keyboards. I love things with very few choices and that are ephemeral.
Yeah.
I found that those are the instruments that speak to me. Having 9,000 variables that I can control like a god in Pro Tools is nothing compared to finding just the right sample in the SK1 and then knowing that when you turn it off, it will never come back.
Never.
So, and you were part of that. Like I discovered so much of that and we had so much fun. But I want to tell a story about you that it's something that I owe you for. I owe you greatly. When we had our SK1 cabin experience where we all went to that, I can't remember where it was north
Sam
of Houston.
Houston.
Was it Sam Houston State
Park?
Okay.
Maybe? I don't know. They had the cabin. Yeah.
Yeah. And we recorded ourselves and we had friends and it was fun. And we played a song. I wish I could remember the name of it, but I played a bass riff in it and you
Kawasaki Green.
And you told me how great that bass line was and that you didn't know that I had that in me. I was like, I didn't know I had that in me. It was probably a fucking mistake. And to this day, that gave me more confidence about playing bass. And I've played probably more bass than I have guitar.
Really?
Yes, and that was the inflection point. And to have your praise when I held your musicianship in such high esteem, like really kind of like knocked down a door or two for me. So thank you for that.
I'm audibly responding to the sickness of your fill on the recording.
That's exactly right.
I was like,
right.
it was so the perfectly placed fill, the perfect grit, the perfect dig into the strings, the perfect it was just like, what?
Isn't that funny? I mean, I'm glad you remember it because it was really important to me. And I don't think I've ever had a chance to like tell you in this way. Thank you.
I'm touched.
You should be. I'm touched telling you. It's how many human experiences do you have like that where you only learn the value much later on, can actually trace it back to an inflection point, and then can tell the person, I love you for that. Thank you so much. You made my life go in a different direction.
Yeah. Influenced each other through support or through appreciation.
It was the counterbalance to the dishwasher comment of my mom. It finally evened out. He bumped my self-worth as a bass player up to where I could compete on a level playing field with my mom saying bad things about me being a musician.
All right. Once again, we have a little sorbet, but I want to get back to kind of like the journey that gets you to being a creative psychotherapist.
Okay.
That voice was, you were like, okay, I'm serious voice.
Well,
we can have levity too. It's just, I'm wondering.
So the okay comes from a place where I know how to focus, because one of the things that gifts beyond measure that I've received, I have a lot of good stories.
Mm-hmm.
I have done and been and found myself in situations with some amazing people and I'm fortunate enough to realize that. So the becoming a therapist, I did want to become a therapist. I did get into a hard graduate school in 1983. I did drop out in 85 because I had a drug problem and my music career was kind of looking up. And I found that I didn't care. Unfortunately, it was a lot of, just me making a bunch of bad decisions, but bad decisioning my way towards something now that I can see it. When I found myself in the studio and did find that it was somewhat easier for me than others to like help people do something they couldn't do otherwise.
Yeah.
Like I mapped that directly onto the, year and a half of grad school that I had and in my study of psychology. And so
where does MKP fall into that? When did you do that?
Oh, I did that much later, February 99, which was, 17 years after or 16 years after I felt. Well,
the reason I bring up MKP, because I'd like to explore it just a little bit, but also I imagine you've been a seeker in your life.
Yeah, I found that, with that early therapy experience
mm-hmm.
and, some of the stuff I've observed around, some mysticism and Christianity and in other forms, that there was this thing that not everybody could sense or perceive or apprehend. There was things going on in the human experience that were profound, and I was hungry for those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the study of psychology was definitely part of it. Music, definitely a part of it. Wield the mighty sounds, to make people feel things. And then MKP, the way it came up is this was February 99. So I was fairly broke. We owned Sugar Hill, but I'm doing all the stuff I like to do. And we're just kind of like learning to live with whatever money we have. Mm-hmm. And my brothers, Bill and Tom, they come to me and go, hey, we've done this thing and we really would like you to do it. And
you're sober by now.
Yeah. I got sober originally in 94, had a very short relapse. And then
was that before Sugar Hill stuff?
Yes, it was. Yeah. Sugar Hill. I got sober. Literally, I was put into rehab 12/31/93, the last day, New Year's Eve of 1993. And by the end of 94, I was at Sugar Hill renting space from the previous owners.
Studio C? Were you up in C?
Studio B.
Studio B.
Yeah.
Just FYI, Sugar Hill is a recording studio in Houston. Yeah. It's still there, right?
It's still there.
It's still called Sugar Hill.
The longest continuously operating recording studio as far as we know in the United States.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. And MKP stands for Mankind Project.
Right.
Okay.
So my brothers approached me. I'm sober. Things are starting to happen. Matter of fact, 99 is the inflection point in my music career for my second ascendancy. The first one was ruined by drugs. There's a great story, but we're not going to talk about it now. So MKP gets rolled at me. My brothers had gone through the initiation. They wanted me to do it too.
Mhm.
And they said, we know you probably don't have any money, so we'll pay for it, or give us $10 and we'll pay for the rest. So I did it, and I went through the initiation, and it was both exactly what I thought it was going to be and totally unlike anything I'd ever experienced.
Mhm.
I had been to a men's retreat with my father that some of the MKP guys put together about before I was sober and after my dad got sober. And it was just nuts. Both of us like drove away from that weekend going like, who were those people? You know, like the seeds were not hitting fertile soil at that point in time. But I kind of thought, oh, it's going to be kind of like that, but it's going to make more sense. It's going to be better arranged. And it's exactly what it was. And I even recognized some of the people there. And MKP to me, like that journey to me was about acknowledging that I am still comprised of what makes a primitive man. You know, I kind of want to fight and fuck, and that I have been kind of not given the opportunity to use those urges, drives, tendencies in helpful, useful ways for several reasons. One, there's not many people that model that in our culture, and number two, our culture is kind of damped down the need for those types of skills, you know. And so the idea behind MKP was that you get back in touch with these things. You no longer demonize that part of yourself. You allow it to come out. And as a result, you're a much happier, you know, male, and you find your way in the world a lot better, and you develop integrity, which was, I knew from the 12 steps, this is important. Just doing the shit you say you're going to do.
Yeah, accountability.
At 100%, which is like pretty fucking low in male culture in our world. You know, it's like, yeah, I'll get back to you. Yeah, you know, there's just this incredible veneer of different lies that you tell that are just understood to be, well, I'm not going to do that. But this is the point in the conversation where I tell you that I will.
Yeah.
I needed that. My wounds around my dad and my mom, you can be brutal with me, but if I know, I feel a lot more secure than if, you know, I have to figure out the layers of social nicety and, you know, and someone else's shame showing up in a conversation. I don't even know what's going on, you know, but it's putting me further away from that person. So I loved it. I love the simplicity of it. I found that my journey in MKP, which the trajectory is after the training to stay with a group of men and to
an I group,
to stay in that learning environment, and then also to make yourself of service to train more men.
Yeah.
And I found that I was not going to be the guy that trained more men.
Right.
It was not sort of like the way I was wired. I knew I was taking MKP out in the world because I was living different and talking different and behaving different. And so I thought, okay, well, here's my path. This is cool. And now it's stunning to me. But of the men I'm closest to and know me the best, there are people that went through MKP and not necessarily with me. And it's just my very best friend. I mean, I don't want to use names and stuff because I don't want to link people. And here you are. Yeah. Here you fucking are.
Well, you got a brick there.
Yeah.
Land of my grandfathers, you got a brick there with your brothers, didn't you? With your name on it.
Yeah. But when did Phil decide to tell me about MKP? This was a phone conversation that we had, and I don't remember if it was direct or sideways or what. I don't know if we intended to talk about this. I just don't remember. Yeah. But my memory is that I was driving back from Kerrville, pretty much on the Kerrville side of San Antonio, where it's kind of
on your motorcycle.
No, not on my car, and I'm talking to you on the phone, and this comes up, and it's sort of like you're trying to tell me about this cool thing you did, and I just kind of gave you my animal name.
What's your animal name?
It's Raccoon.
You're Raccoon.
Yeah, I started out as Trusting Raccoon, then those issues went away, and now I'm just Raccoon.
You're just Raccoon.
Yeah.
I'm Kind Fox.
Aw, you so are. You are. I'm a raccoon. I'll just get in trouble. I'm not even trying to get in trouble.
I like raccoon.
Screwing shit and, you know, taking things apart.
Were there other Were there other frameworks or modalities that you went in deep, like you did with MKP?
Sure. It would be
Whether
the
it's
12-step.
the 12-step, of course. Yeah, huge.
Yeah, because it provides this sort of, this design for living that is, once you get past step one, it's no longer about the substance, right? It's about all the ways that you sort of were like learning to live while being dependent on something. And then also gradually shutting down the feedback that you're getting from the world that like this may not be a very good thing for you to do, but it becomes a bargain you're willing to make, to be addicted and to manage your feelings and stuff. So once you get past step one, it's all about sort of like integrity, cleaning up your side of the street, becoming open to the idea that there is a power greater than you, and that you might want to humbly invoke that, whatever it might ever be, to help you, because there's certain energy that's available. And it uses antiquated words like God, but I belong to a huge, I think now, super majority of people in AA where God is, you're free to have any God you want, or none whatsoever.
Yeah.
As long as you're not the most powerful thing in the universe. That's the deal. Because it's like creativity. Once you learn that you can put this thing to your lips and drink and there change the entire world, you are the most powerful thing on the planet, and it is seductive and will lead people to death. It is unreal once you start to understand it. And it's very much like the creative thing, except it is a hard wire straight to your pleasure center. So there's not a lot of discrimination that takes place after a certain level of involvement with substances to manage your life in a self-directed way that involves euphoria. Yeah. Not a good combination for some people. And for people in my family, it turned out to not be a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that gave me a great sort of like, set of tools, way of experiencing life, and really even spiritual tools, like being able to look at something that scares the fuck out of me, that I can't avoid, and remind myself, it's been okay up until now. I've figured every single thing out, or I've had the solution appear every single time up until now. That'll probably be okay. I probably shouldn't worry about it.
What's your spiritual lens now?
It's really interesting because I've allowed myself to kind of roam far and free. I mentioned the Crazy Christians earlier, and I did about 7 years of intense adjacent work to Crazy Christianity. What I did is I took on the frame of understanding the New Testament as I think it was originally intended, like the second century Christian. There's no church, there's no pope, there's no place to gather. There's just people trading this information. And with it, the big news is that you didn't need anybody between you and God. It's funny how the pope thing worked out. But you didn't, this was available to you. And by the way, if you are the dispossessed or the people that are ignored or that don't have things, you actually have a leg up, because you're going to see the picture much clearer than those that are surrounded by the world's successes, whether that's money or power or what have you. And so I became very interested in this message and found some people that wrote about it, and it was great. And being adjacent to the Crazy Christians gave me sort of an outlet to kind of do that thing. But I was never going to live there. It was a wonderful place to visit and to do a deep dive. But I knew that the people that I kind of loved in that scene, they were surrounded with a lot of boundaries that I didn't have. And not necessarily bad ones, but I wanted to find something that I felt was a spiritual experience that is available to anyone, that you don't need esoteric knowledge. And in the 12 steps, I kind of found it. And that is try it out. Just try to allow things to happen. And that if you don't know and you're worried, entertain the idea that it'll come to you. And then also pay attention, because if you relax a little bit and start looking around you, there are things that will tell you where to go, what's going on. There are signs and wonders.
So spirituality is kind of a beginner's mind, or curiosity and open-mindedness, but also an awareness to
how things can influence me. Like, for instance, if I had not been a sober man, sort of like open to the idea that big things could come to me in weird packages, your comment to me would not have meant quite as much. I would have been flattered, and I would have thought I scored one with Phil.
the comment about the bass,
Yeah.
the bass lick.
Yeah, but it hit me at this place. It was like, my left brain, right brain,
I was the
glitch
universe
thing.
saying,
yeah,
like,
it was like you're great. You're great doing you're great with the glitch. And it was shortly thereafter, around that 3 or 4 year period, where I realized I'm an 11-trick pony. I know 11 tricks musically, and they are very, very good tricks. I am not God's gift to playing guitar. I am not God's gift to being a producer, and I am not God's gift to being a recording engineer, but I'm pretty fucking good at all of them. And I think the thing that makes me a little bit different is that I just kind of always am curious about what could be better. What can we try here?
Mm-hmm.
And I seem to have a good sense of, this person's not ready to hear this. That would not be helpful. Just because my idea is the right one, it does not mean that I need to say it, and I need to say it right now. And so I got really good at that. So, like, pushing people within their ability to perform, because that's
and
where
their
it kind of
comfort
goes wrong.
zone.
Yeah. Helping them. So I was basically taking these kind of tools for me to kind of like learn how to live life, and to be engaged and excited by it. Mm-hmm. And, there's mysteries out there. Mysteries aplenty. Dude, we do not know why photosynthesis works as well as it does.
Oh, there's a lot more that we don't know. We know
so little. The big masturbatory experience of living right here in the 21st century is that we know so much, but everything we know only causes 2 questions to be asked.
Oh, yeah.
It's turtles all
the way down, baby.
Down.
I agree.
So once you accept that, I can't wait to see what happens next.
Yeah.
And I often say that with my patients and with my sponsees in AA. It's like, when you can get to the place where it's a shit sandwich, it's bad. It's like, dude, I can't wait to see what happens next. And like really conjure a little bit of, I'm true. I really want this to be over with. This sucks right now. It just opens up so much. So integrity, curiosity, humility.
Grace with uncertainty.
Oh, you're putting in nicer words than I would. Those things, if you can kind of keep them at the forefront of your experience. And I don't know, for me, I think the humility part is hard because I'm right a lot. And people are like often amazed at how right I am in certain ways, so I have to like really remember I may not be right, or me being wrong may be the thing that's best.
Maybe being wrong is right.
Well, I tell that to my patients the very first day. I said, there will be times where I make a mistake with you. And I said, but if we're doing therapy right, that mistake will lead to the solution.
That's what needs to happen.
And that's how Phil fails.
Phil fails. When I fail, I succeed.
That's exactly right.
And when I succeed, I will have failed enough.
Well, you know what you have done. You've invited people formally into the space where you can fail.
And being imperfect. Let's mess up.
It is a prerequisite.
Let's let lights shut off in the middle.
Let's let lights shut off. Let's let me say things that I will totally fucking like think about. Go, did I really say that?
Well, we're kind of coming to the end. Well, we are coming to the end. Landing this plane.
Mm-hmm, we are.
Is there anything that feels like it's been unsaid that wants to be said? Is there any place you want to explore?
Yes, and
in the last moments.
Yeah, it's very personal. I had very little fantasy or expectation of how this was going to go, but from when you told me about doing this and invited me, I shut it down in my mind, and I thought that's something probably I don't want to be a part
When
of.
the first time I mentioned it to you?
Yes. And then when it came up again, something happened, and I realized, like, no, this is exactly what I'm supposed to do.
I'm like, opportunities knocking five.
Yes, this is exact. And Phil is the perfect person, because we'd had other conversations at that point where we gotten very vulnerable with each other.
Of course.
I had such admiration for like some of the things that you've overcome and grappled with that were so close to things that I still have to learn about myself. And that felt wonderful.
Yeah.
And I trusted you in this. I'm crying like my dad. He used to like make fun of my fucking dad. He would fucking cry all the time. And I've become him.
We've got
I was
emotion,
truly touched by the things that you shared with me. And I thought if I could walk that path with you a little bit, it would really be great. And this just turned out to be the way to do it.
Yeah, it's really touching to hear that. I'm grateful. Yeah, really
Me too.
grateful that you drove from Houston here.
Silence the whole way. Like I made one phone call, but that was it.
I'm really grateful for you, Dan, coming and speaking with me, sharing your journey, sharing your life and your practice and all that stuff. You have been a mentor for me and someone who I call when I wonder what's going on with my life and want to make sense.
That now you are that person for me too.
Yeah. That's really powerful. Yeah, I guess in some of these I talk about finding a way to give back, finding a way to wrap up my shit sandwich and give it back to the world so that they can learn something or grow or find something else so they don't have to do what I did. And it sounds like I have in some ways with you.
That's right. My guess is that you found with many people the way to do that, but that this is a forum where you can share it with a lot more people.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, Dan. Can I have a hug?
Yeah.
You just push this like this. Oh man. I love you, dude. I love you too. Yeah.
Whoa. I was not expecting that.
It's all good.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. In my personal work, for some reason, I've been crying a lot lately, and I know that I've been sort of like emotionally constipated, and not being able to to allow myself to experience some things, and along with like the amazing connection and the honesty and just what I'm feeling, I got a chance to discharge some things that have probably been weighing on me for a long time. And that's how psychotherapy works with creative people.
Yeah. Boom. I think that's
a wrap.
Yeah, that's a wrap. We just end it there.
Woo!
Thank you, Dan. This has been Phil Phails at where I write it down. I write it down. Phil Phails at Creative Informed Psychotherapy with Dan Workman, producer, engineer, and psychotherapist, practicing creative informed psychotherapy. Dan, this is wonderful. Thank you so much. Oh yeah, dude. That's a wrap.
It's a wrap.